So, yeah, so many companies are using this, like Apple and SAP, Nike, Intel, and myself. I've worked with a number of different organizations. Here's an example of some of my clients that I've worked with. Besides working with the public, I've worked with the ANU for their staff, ACT government, federal government. I just finished some work with Defence for their Joint Strike Force team, which was amazing. So the reason I'm telling you this is there's quite a diverse interest in this. I've worked for gymnasiums, aged care, law firms, and what the common denominator is, everyone needs tools, techniques to help them deal with stress and build resilience. And so what I refer people to over here on the left-hand side, I call it the mindful ABCs. These are the fundamentals for helping us build some skills in mindfulness. And the key one is awareness. And what we're going to do is talk about how you can build that. We're going to touch on that now. And I'm going to leave you with some information, how you can build that over time. Building what's called mind intelligence. What's that? It's a fancy term for saying being able to understand the mind, understanding emotions and thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and some of the negativity biases we've got, and all the things that actually can make it hard for us to stick to a mindfulness practice. As someone was mentioning earlier, found great benefit in it, but it still sort of tapers off unless we can set that strong intention. And then there's connection and acceptance, connection with ourselves and others, and acceptance is just such a key part of mindfulness, okay? And out of that, we'll get skills and we have the practice. And the practice is the main game. It's the thing that really helps us. Okay, what I do mindfulness training, like I mentioned. I do presentations, I do mentoring, I do groups or one-on-one. I'm working with a lawyer in Brisbane now, a guy in Victoria who had PTSD, and I'm moving into corporate mindful leadership, which is another big area, which is really sadly lacking in management. I get referrals from psychologists, doctors, cardiologists, anger management. So I just like to present that it is a beneficial kind of thing to help us. It helps us in challenging times. The downside is a lot of us only look to this and refer to it when times are tough. And what we need to do this quite regularly so we build a resilience. Why mindfulness? I don't know if anyone has had this kind of thing, the monkey with symbols in the brain. We found this in your brain. I know sometimes that people might relate it being around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and the brain won't turn off. So mindfulness helps us settle the mind down. Just some quick mindfulness research references. These are some academic studies. Reducing psychological stress, anxiety, mild depression and pain, there's a reference there. Enhancing cognitive performance, concentration, memory, emotional intelligence, and improving emotional regulation. Really big parts of mindfulness. And this is proven with science. And another interesting one at the bottom, slowing down the aging process by repairing telomeres. So a telomere is the little end piece on the end of a chromosome, which stops it from fraying. And they found out the mindfulness, they've proven, helps reduce the shortening of the telomeres. So pretty amazing stuff. I just want to introduce you to this. I don't want to talk too much about it because I'll send you the study. But this was a study, credit to NPJ, Parkinson's disease, and it was done in 2021. And it was with 5,000 Parkinson's patients. And what I'd like to point out to you is this center graph. It talks about they did a study and they worked out the more people did mindfulness practice, the more it reduced their symptoms like anxiety, tremor, depressed mood, etc. But if I zoom in on the bottom one, interestingly, and it was quite a big sample group that they studied. This group alone was 1,736 Parkinson's people. Why they haven't used mindfulness to date, never thought about it, but interested, 750 people. I don't believe it'll work. I don't have time or energy. Only interested in an individual course. So interestingly, it's been proven to help up here in the top corner in B, where it's improved anxiety, depressed mood, tremor, sleep problems, a little bit of improvement in gait and freezing, etc. So I'll send you this. It's quite a full study, like an academic study, and it's got a lot more to it. But I just wanted to introduce that to you, just that there's a lot of credibility. And just quickly, there's a couple of other mindfulness studies I found. There's an excerpt from, this is just an excerpt from a study in Brisbane with 14 patients before they went through a mindfulness training, and 6 months later. And it found that they had less stress, depression with improved cognitive and motor function. Here's the study, an academic study, not just a story. And on the michaeljfox.org site, I found this mindfulness benefits survey, 6,200 participants, 5,000 people with Parkinson's. And this was about how mindfulness may help reduce some Parkinson's symptoms. And at the end of it, more than 38% found mindfulness helped them manage their stress, improve their motor and non-motor symptoms, and including anxiety and depressed mood. So just a very quick sort of idea that there's credibility there behind the concept. So I'm hoping this might inspire you to give it a go. Again, these are just some ideas, the effect of meditation on the brain, because we know, science knows, that it changes gyrification. MRI scans have shown meditation increases gyrification or cortical folding. Focus is improved by increasing cortical thickness in regions of the brain responsible for attention, etc. Here's the telomeres again, the heart. All these things help the immune system. So again, just want to touch on to give you a flavour of how much science backing there is in the benefits of mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? So very quickly, Jon Kabat-Zinn he was termed the father of mindfulness. I don't know if anyone's heard of this guy, but he popularized mindfulness back in the 1970s, I think it was. And he's a doctor, medical doctor, and a lot of the research has sprung out of his work. So he coined the term mindfulness is an awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally, which is the hard part. As humans, we're emotional creatures, but there's ways to get out of that being swept away by emotions, swept away by overthinking. And this is where the mindfulness sort of training can come in. Another way of putting it, it's being present, aware, and observant, which is so important from what I've a little bit of research I've done with Parkinson's. It's very important to be present, aware, and observant, and out of that autopilot so that you can focus well without getting too caught up in thoughts, judgments, sensations, reactions, or distractions. The good news is it is possible. From my experience, 20 years ago, I was an overworker, overachiever. My mind was out of control. I was achieving a lot. I was doing a lot, but to the detriment of my health. And then I discovered mindfulness and meditation, and everything changed for me. I was deeply anxious. I was deeply stressed. And now I just don't get anxious, and I rarely get stressed. And if I do get stressed, I understand that I've got the tools and what to do about it. And that's what's important about mindfulness, so that you've got the tools and techniques. It all starts, though, with self-awareness. So self-awareness of the body is the easy one. We're going to cover off a little bit about that today. But there's so many aspects. Some of the 4 foundations is awareness of our reactivity, awareness of our thoughts, and awareness of our emotions. These are 4 of the foundations. And I'd like to just point out, it's something that you do. It's not just something you know. I get a lot of people that find it a nice academic exercise, but it's actually a way of living. And I trademark the term mind intelligence, because I'm getting sick of the word mindfulness, to be honest. So I'd like to call it mind intelligence. Okay. I'm sorry it's a bit fast, but I've only got a short time and I wanted to get through a lot of stuff to help you as much as I can. Metacognition. What the heck is metacognition? The simple way of putting it, it's knowing what you're thinking. It's being aware of and understanding your own thought processes. So if I split conceptually our mind into 2 parts, the thinking mind and an observing mind, the thinking mind, we all know. Once you learn to think, you can never stop thinking. Most of us think too much, but it's good at fixing, problem solving, and we have beneficial thoughts, wasteful thoughts, and required thoughts. Required thoughts, I've got to go to the toilet, I'm hungry. Beneficial thoughts and wasteful thoughts, they're the ones we want to get the good balance. How many thoughts a day do you think that we have on average? Believe it or not, a study has been done. Between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day on average for most people. And the question to ask ourselves is, how many of those are wasteful thoughts? Because when we do that, we're really draining ourselves. We want to try and have as many beneficial thoughts as we can. How do we do that? By building what's called the observing mind. The observing mind is the part of our mind that's aware and notices. That's what metacognition is. It's the bit that recognizes, why am I doing this? Why am I criticizing myself? Why am I getting angry at this person? It's owning your reaction, being aware and noticing. How do we do that? By practicing mindfulness. And we're going to do that in just a tick. I'm going to give you an example. We're going to take it for a test run. And it's the mindfulness practice that helps us notice this crazy monkey mind that jumps around and never stops thinking and worries about the future and brings up the past. And it helps us to observe who we're being versus who we might want to be, which sounds a bit obvious, but quite often that's hard to do. So watch the wasteful thoughts in metacognition and recognize as quickly as you can if you're having an overreaction, because a lot of overreactions and wasteful thoughts create drama for us that we don't need. And believe it or not, we can reduce this with a solid mindfulness practice. Over time, it takes time. It's not a magic wand, but it certainly helps. I included this because I thought it was a nice little statistic. A wandering mind is not a happy mind. Harvard University did a study and they found that around 47% or half of our waking hours is spent thinking about what isn't happening, what isn't going on right now. We're either worrying about the past or projecting into the future. We're happiest. What they found is we're happiest when both our thoughts and our actions are aligned, even if it's the most simple and mundane things like washing the dishes, present, feeling the water, feeling the texture, just being there. This is what mindfulness helps us do. We're not sitting there ruminating, worrying. Learning to be more present at what it's all about. It's easy to do, it's just hard to stick to. So, like the 2 puppies say, the key to meditation is learning to stay. So we're going to do a little quick meditation and give you a taster. It's called a body scan. So you don't have to do anything other than just follow along. So getting yourself comfy in the chair, having your back as straight as you can, but without straining. This is not about striving or performing. This is more about letting the body release tension, but keeping the mind focused on this practice. So I invite you to lightly close your eyes or just gaze down at the floor if you prefer not to close your eyes. For this body scan practice, we're going to tune into various parts of our body. So you might like to roll your shoulders slowly backwards and down, releasing any tension. You might like to tuck your chin in slightly to lengthen your neck a little at the back. Really important for people that work at a desk or sit a lot. You might like to imagine you're being nicely cupped and supported by the chair. And giving yourself permission to slide into neutral. Letting that busy mind just slow down. Giving it permission to do that. Releasing, relaxing, calm. But keeping our mind focused on this practice. I invite you to take 3 or more slightly slower, slightly deeper breaths down into your belly. If you can, breathe in for a count of 4 and breathe out for a count of 5 or 6 if possible. The slightly longer exhalation helps us trigger what's called the autonomic nervous system's relaxation response, when we can have a little bit longer out breath. This is not about relaxing. Relaxing is a nice consequence of mindfulness practice. It's about staying focused and building our observing mind. As you breathe in, you might like to think that your body is being nicely nourished and calm. And as you breathe out, you're releasing any tension in your body. Maybe if you've got a good imagination, you can imagine your tension just draining out of your feet. Being mindful is about learning to observe and notice our sensations, thoughts, and emotions. It's also really important to know that you can't get the meditation wrong, because there's no standard to achieve here. This is just your experience. You also don't have to stop thinking. That can be challenging for experienced meditators. Just try to do your best to accept what is for you right now, being as present as you can without reacting or judging anything that you might notice. Can you notice any sounds in the room or filtering in from outside? Just noticing, no further thoughts. Can you notice the clothes subtly resting against your skin? Just noticing. Feel the weight of your bottom where you're sitting. Can I ask you to focus your attention on the soles of your feet? How do they feel? Can you feel the weight of your feet on the ground? Maybe wiggle your toes, bringing the focus of your attention to your toes, focusing on both big toes, slowly moving our attention from both feet up both legs to the knees. Moving the focus of your attention from your knees slowly up your thighs to your bottom. Consciously softening any tension in the muscles as you move through, if you can. You might notice both legs just nicely relaxing in the chair. It's quite normal, by the way, for the mind to keep wandering off at first. Just notice that it has and gently pull your focus back into the practice. Because noticing a distraction is part of mindfulness practice. If thoughts do come up while you're doing this, you might like to just imagine placing the thought or the thoughts on an imaginary leaf and then watching the leaf float away down the most beautiful stream. Or put it on a cloud, or like in an airport, a baggage handling ramp, just getting rid of it. Noticing your back resting against the chair. Tuning into your tummy area now. Imagine where your navel is. Moving focus of your attention up to your chest area. Taking another slightly slower, slightly deeper breath. Into the count of 4, out to the count of 5 or 6. Moving your focus now into both hands. Lightly moving your fingers. Try to notice the space between your fingers. Noticing all parts of both of your arms. Moving up your arms into your shoulder area. Now just noticing your whole body from your shoulders down, just releasing, relaxing, calm, resting where you're sitting. Try to accept everything, moment by moment, without judgment. Awareness now on the neck muscle area, easing any tension in those big muscles if you can. Focusing on your face, eyes relaxing in the sockets. Scanning your cheeks, your nose. Where do you notice the breath is in your body? When it's coming into your body, do you notice it in your nostrils, your throat, your chest, your belly? Where do you notice the in-breath and the out-breath? Noticing your tongue inside your mouth. Is your jaw unclenched? Do you have a scowl, letting your brow release? Releasing, relaxing, calm. Mind remains focused. Scanning your ears, the top of your head, your whole head. Now just try to notice an awareness of your whole body, being very present right here now. Maybe one more slightly slower, slightly deeper breath. Releasing, relaxing, calm. When we practice meditation regularly, over time, we'll feel more balanced with a clearer mind. We'll have a bit more space for thought. Have you noticed that you gave your mind a bit of a rest, an opportunity to be? A lot of us don't do that. We're so busy. We've got the habit of busyness. Can I please request that you remember this feeling right now so that you can come back to it more easily next time? Finishing up our meditation shortly. When it's time for you, gently bring your focus back to this presentation. Open your eyes, maybe rub your face, stretch. Why not smile? How did we go? Good or? Okay. Well, that was an example of a body scan. And what I'll do, I'll send an information sheet with some links. And one of the links will be to my guided meditations. They're free on my Insight Timer Teachers page. So this meditation and there's about 10 on there you can use and to get started. So just quickly, I'd like to go through a little bit about stress and what stress, we haven't got much time, so I'll just quickly say stress isn't bad as long as it's managed, as long as there's not too much stress for too long. So on this in top corner, it shows that we actually have quite a period of maximum efficiency with a little bit of stress. But then if it carries on too long or too much, it tapers off and we suffer a lot. And down in this bottom left quadrant, I have biofeedback devices and I can measure people's what's called heart rate variability. And this is what it looks like when people are tinged with stress, the red one. And it's called incoherent waveforms. And what I do, I try to get people to like the blue, which is called a coherent sinusoidal waveform. This is where we have optimum performance of all our systems. And this bottom right quadrant shows where I did a recording in a corporate session I did. I wired a guy up just to demonstrate it. And you can see here, he started off quite chaotic like the red one. And over here down below, this is a representation of the autonomic nervous system. So at the far left shows the sympathetic, which is the doing, the active, the busy part of our nervous system. And the bit over to the right is the parasympathetic. So early on, you can see he was very, very busy in the sympathetic and lots of activity throughout his nervous system, which is what we do. We have our foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time, and our nervous system gets confused. I put him through some processes, some coherence building structures, and you can see here later he got a little bit more like this bottom, and see here the power of his nervous system was nicely balanced right in the middle, in between sympathetic and parasympathetic. And this is what is quite powerful, that helps us build a coherence. Run out of time for that. Moving on. This is a concept, the window of tolerance to stress. So we've got the hyperarousal zone where we're feeling unsafe, anxious, angry, reactive, impulsive, disorganized. And that's our fight or flight response. We also have our hypoarousal zone, which is our freeze response or our numbing, where we disconnect. We just disable our cognitive processing. We can get depressed, absence of sensation. And what many of us do, because we don't have sort of mindfulness practice or tools or techniques, we vacillate between these two. Where we want to be is in this optimal zone between where it's calm, safe, and connected. We're present and engaged, clear-minded. It involves emotional intelligence. And what do we get? This nice feeling of well-being. This is what mindfulness can help us do, staying in this optimal zone more often. We're going to go up, we're going to go down, but not as often. We're not going to get swept away. Okay, I love this. This is just one of my favorite sort of pictures. It really typifies how with stress, perception really counts. We've got the guy that come third is just delighted and over the moon. And the guy that come first, he's really a bit put out because the guy that come third is a bit happier than he is. So what does that mean? Yeah, we all do this sometimes. We all get a bit carried away with how we look at things. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at can change. So there's a bit of a message in that. Again, mindfulness practices help us see who we're being versus who we want to be. So, creating an ongoing practice. What I suggest is starting a formal practice, anywhere between 2 and 13 minutes a day. My guided meditations go around 13 minutes. You could redo those. Do it a quietish place. Put it on your phone. You could do it in the middle of the night if you wake up. Of course, meditation's as good as sleep. They've proven that. You could do it in the morning, at night. I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning with the alarm, and I do an hour and a half's practice every morning. Why? Because it just does so much benefit for me. And I'll tell you, quite often I don't feel like doing it, but I've got the discipline and the intention to stick at it. So let your body release tension, keep your mind focused. It's not about just zoning out, and create this mindfulness habit. So try to do it every day, even if it's a couple of minutes. And I say use the Nike principle, just do it. Informal practice, what is that? Informal practice is noticing. When you're in the shower, feel the water on you. Like when you're cooking, notice the textures, the smells, walk slower, eat slower, listen more. Notice nature. Notice the smile of a child or the warmth of a pet or whatever it is. And where you'll get to, if you can get into this practice, you'll value the downtime of being as much as or more than doing and needing to do things. There's all sorts of things about that we cover off on the bigger mindfulness immersive training courses, why we do that and how to get around it. But suffice to say, schedule micro breaks during the day. We're going to cover off one of those very quickly. Another type of mindfulness practice is mindful walking. I'll send you a copy of this slide so you don't have to worry too much. Dr. Joe Dispenza does these quite inspirational walking meditations, if that's an option for you. A lot of people that are struggling with health issues, like his book, You Are the Placebo. So I'll forward this to you. This is something that I find personally, it's very good. I've done a lot of work with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've done advanced 7-day retreats with him, quite powerful. So some mindfulness resources. Practice, practice, practice. It's what makes all the difference. Setting an intention and then creating a habit. The easiest way to do that is to do some more training and immerse yourself in it. We talked about phone apps earlier. One of the ones that I recommend is the Awaken Mind phone app. There's a free version available with some limited functionality. Through Inner Synergy, I can offer a 25% discount off the premium subscription, which gets it down to about $49, I think, a year. And it's got a thing called NeuroSync, which is SMR brain entrainment. And I've got some information about how that might be useful for Parkinson's as well. I won't go into that now, haven't got time. But Awakened Mind has so much information in it about mindfulness, how to learn mindfulness, how to practice mindfulness, mindfulness meditations, how to deal with pain, anxiety, all sorts of things. So I could recommend that. My free Insight Timer Teachers page, guided meditations. I'll send you this link. There's a whole raft of meditations there you could practice. They're free. I do one-on-one or group immersive training and mentoring options. I don't know if the group might be interested in doing some sort of a group multi-week training. It's where the real magic comes in. Anyone that's heard of the Happiness Trap book by Dr. Russ Harris. I've worked with Dr. Russ Harris with acceptance commitment therapy. I've got access to his online 8-week online course, and I can offer that at a 70% discount. It's normally $300. You can get that for $70. I get nothing out of this other than the benefit to offer it for my customers or my clients. Look up radical acceptance and the RAIN technique. Again, I will send you this information so you don't have to worry too much. These resource tips, and you can research a lady called Tara Brach about radical acceptance. I think it'd be a really important skill to look at, especially with Parkinson's. Dr. Craig Hassard is a Monash University professor, and he specializes in mindfulness. He's a medical doctor, and he wrote a book called The Essence of Health. And about 10 years ago, he did a lifestyle program with Parkinson's participants. And he wrote the book, Essence of Health, to help people. So again, I'll send you that information. There's a whole raft of study papers he did as well as results of the benefits of mindfulness with Parkinson's. There's a Canberra-based website called Simply Mindful. It offers practice sessions and information. That might be something you'd like to look at. There's a phone app I noticed highly rated called Unwinding Anxiety for anyone that wanted to do that. And maybe the group might be interested in doing some form of regular practice. But moving right along, I'll send you this. We've run out of time for this, but just quickly, I'll send you this and you can practice it yourself. The idea is take 3 breaths. So for the first breath, you're focusing completely on the breath, breathing into the count of 4, out to the count of 5. You're noticing where the air is coming in, you're noticing, and you're just fully immersed in the breath. For the second breath, while you're breathing, you're focused on the body. You're letting the body relax, consciously allowing it to release. And in the third breath, you ask yourself, what's important right now? And this is a really powerful 1-minute technique that helps us refocus and reset our attention. And you can do it 20 times a day. I've spoken to a guy who had PTSD. He said he does this about 10 times a day, changed his life. So something you can